Um, I'll say this, I'm very privileged to be able to work with Miss New Jersey of America. Her tiara is beautiful. And she's really passionate about certain legislation that is making its way through the assembly. Some of the laws are a little ridiculous, and the one that she's going to talk about in particular is really ridiculous. So we were even a little snarky on the title, and the title of this session is, I Have to Pay My Abuser Alimony? Why Legislation is Important. So we're a little early, but Ilsy, if you're in the house, let's get you in the room and let's get you on. And I'm hoping, oh, here she comes.
Oh, there we go. Hi. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you. I like my tiara.
Yeah.
Although I haven't quite figured out how to keep it on without it falling off ever so often. If you just turn your head, it kind of like slides over.
Well, like in Titanic, you'd go straight to the bottom. And on that note, I'm going to leave you to it.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. As Sherry said, I'm Ilsy Hoo, Miss New Jersey for America. I just adore her. So I am going to talk about two things. The reason why I am a huge advocate for domestic violence awareness and education, and why I am trying to pass this bill so that the abusers are no longer receiving alimony from our victims. But I'm going to start with a video first, which I found was very interesting and kind of cute and want to lighten the mood a little bit. But hold on one second. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Woo, you sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. Well, I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee, but I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will, but today I am still just a bill.
Gee, Bill, you certainly have a lot of patience and courage.
Well, I got this far. When I started, I wasn't even a bill. I was just an idea. Some folks back home decided they wanted a law passed, so they called their local congressman, and he said, "You're right, there ought to be a law." Then he sat down and wrote me out and introduced me to Congress, and I became a bill. And I'll remain a bill until they decide to make me a law. I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I got as far as Capitol Hill. Well, now I'm stuck in committee, and I'll sit here and wait while a few key congressmen discuss and debate whether they should let me be a law. I hope and pray that they will, but today I am still just a bill.
Listen to those congressmen arguing. Is all that discussion and debate about you?
Yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. Most bills never even get this far. I hope they decide to report on me favorably, otherwise I may die.
Die?
Yeah, die in committee. Oh, but it looks like I'm going to live. Now I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
If they vote yes, what happens?
Then I go to the Senate and the whole thing starts all over again.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And if they vote for me on Capitol Hill, well, then I'm off to the White House where I'll wait in a line with a lot of other bills for the president to sign. And if he signs me, then I'll be a law. I hope and pray that he will. But today I am still just a bill.
You mean even if the whole Congress says you should be a law, the president can still say no?
Yes, that's called a veto. If the president vetoes me, I have to go back to Congress and they vote on me again, and by that time you're so
By
old.
that time, it's very unlikely that you become a law. It's not easy to become a law, is it?
No, but how I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
He signed your bill. Now you're a lord.
Oh, yes.
So basically, it was something really cute. I'm aging myself from Schoolhouse Rock, and it discussed the process of passing a bill, which is so lengthy and it takes so much time, and it's so many discussions needs to be had when it comes to this bill. So I'm going to go back a little bit to my experience with domestic violence. A few years ago, I was living with my boyfriend. I never thought it would happen to me, but it did. Um, he was showing signs of being controlling, being verbally abusive, wanted me to not talk to my family, didn't want me to be around my friends. Once I started seeing those signs, I realized that something's just not right. I listened to my gut instincts. What I didn't realize is that how hard it would be to get my abuser away from me. So I started documenting a lot of what was happening, and I'll show you a little bit. I haven't actually pulled this out since I won my case in court, but this is all the documentation that I have actually saved from building my case. The reason why I support Victims Voice app is because if I would have had that type of tool to document everything that was happening to me, my life probably would have been a lot easier. But instead, I had to handwrite notes, I had to fill out police reports, I had to screenshot text messages, I had to get my employer involved, I had to get global security involved with my employer. And it was a lot of stress for me during that time. As a mother of two, I was also very scared about my own children's safety because he would send messages. He actually did cyberbullying as well. He would send messages on Facebook under a fake account, threatening that he would harm my children. He would reach out to my family. So after a long 2 years of documentation and getting the district attorney's office involved in New York, I finally won my case after I testified for about 5 hours, which happens to be the worst time of my life. I thought my divorce was bad, but this was actually the worst time of my life. So the reason why I am talking about why should victims pay alimony is because there was a time during our relationship when things were going well. He did mention about signing a prenup agreement. Now, he just lost his job, which later on I found out he actually quit his job. And I was wondering, why would he ask for a prenup agreement from me when he didn't have any assets? He really didn't have cash in the bank, but which I had a full-time job. I worked for a really well-respected company, and I have money, and I paid most of the bills until he could find another job. And then it dawned on me that if we were to at some point get married and I had that prenup, then he wanted to make sure that he was safe to continue to take a part of my salary, which that's actually very disturbing for me. So now we move a little bit, a few years later, I got away from that situation. I am now crowned Miss New Jersey for America. I'm living a very, very happy life. And now I start thinking about how can I help my community? And the first thing that came to mind was to really look into more about how I could help domestic violence victims to be at a point where I am today. So I met a few people, and it's just by chance I spoke to a gentleman actually who was abused by his ex-wife. And we were having this conversation about, what happened to him. And we were talking about what happened to me, what happened to him. And he was telling me, how abusive she was and how she used to threaten him and how, when he was sleeping one time, he woke up with her with a knife pointing at him. And she was in a drunken state saying that she's going to kill him. She's going to kill him. And then when he finally was able to go through the divorce process, what he found out, unfortunately, is that since she was a stay-at-home mom and he was the sole contributor to the house on paying the bills, he was still obligated to pay her alimony. So now he found this peace within himself, which took him a long time. And it found peace for him to get away from this woman that was tormenting him for years. And being the man that he is, he never fought back because he was raised in a good household not to hit women and not to, be aggressive, just kind of just stick it out. He is paying this woman alimony for many, many years just to have peace. So when I heard about his story and then I started hearing about other people's stories, I started researching this and wondered if New Jersey has started something about looking into this, because it just doesn't seem right. How can this possibly happen where you're finally away from your abuser, but you're still having financial abuse? I just couldn't understand. So I connected with Sherry, and Sherry and I started talking more about this, and we were looking it up, and then I found out that there is something that started about 2 years ago, and a few assembly people got involved. There's a few co-sponsored, and here it is. I have a little bit of notes here, but people actually started working on this, and then it stopped. It stopped. So what I decided to do was the best thing to do, for our community and these people, who are victims or don't know their options, is to start reaching out to my local assemblymen. And with that, I am getting some more endorsements, because it's not that they don't want this to happen, to pass it through. It's just they don't know that it's still happening for people. And so, when I think about the amount of stories that we have today, and we talk about the emotional abuse and, the physical abuse, which is all horrible. I'd never been physically abused by my ex, but I was emotionally abused quite a lot for a long time. And to think that the possibility, if I did marry him, that I could potentially still be paying him alimony, it breaks my heart, because I know there's so many people out there. So there is a interesting thing that people said before, and I don't remember who said this, but 1 in 10 men are a victim of domestic violence, and 1 in 4 women as well. I just wonder how many of those people are paying alimony to their abusers. I mean, how many people are actually being financially abused? So, this is something that I feel that it needs to change, whether it takes a year or 2 years. Even if I'm out of my reign, I'm no longer Miss New Jersey because I only last a year. I'm dedicated to make sure that those people are heard. So I want to take any questions from anyone. Let me see. Let's see. Does anyone have any questions about this or understands what's happening? And hey, there you go.
There
Sherry.
I am.
Okay.
So, this is a blatant oversight of some sort that this is still being allowed to happen. I think it's really important for us as citizens to get involved in the process. It may not affect us directly, but it does affect us indirectly, in that this affects people that live in our communities. And if we don't draw a line in the sand about what's acceptable behavior and what's not acceptable behavior, then the abuse will never stop. It will never stop. So in addition to, and I put the New Jersey Assembly 1302 as the bill dealing with alimony, there's some other ones that are now making their way through the Assembly that I think are very important. A2518, so 2518, expands the means to obtain a protective order for a minor. So right now, as a parent, I can get a protective order for myself. I can't get a protective order for a minor. It's also a loophole, and one that Heather is very passionate about, that if you're being abused by someone, who is 17 years old or younger, you cannot get a restraining order against them.
Well, I know, and it's terrible. That's still happening.
Right. So
Yes.
it's these, I am in New York, which is a no-fault state. No lawyer wants to add DV to divorce cases because there is no difference in the settlement, they tell me. Well, if they're your attorney, you have a right to say, I'm paying you, and this is what I want. I know it's easier said than done, and it's harder to prove. The DV part is much harder to prove. Divorce, like you said, it's no fault. You know, you sign the papers, you're done. So I think it really comes down to, in that case, situations like that, what is it that you ultimately want? If it's you want the dissolution of the marriage and you want a peaceful life, then you move on. But if this person is going to be a continued threat to you, then, you know, I strongly believe for some people, just get out and move on is enough. But when do we say enough, and when do we say we're not going to tolerate this anymore? We need to change the laws, because nothing changes unless the laws are changed. So I encourage you to dig into what is being introduced in legislation. What are you passionate about? And find out who your legislative leaders are. We're going to put a link to how you can find out, and who you can call in New Jersey. I can't do it for all 50 states, but Lean in New Jersey, we're going to give you the links to that. But if you're in another state, you can, everything is available online. And we'll put that information up there. We need to start making those phone calls, writing those letters, and start saying enough. We've had a lot of really important movements over the last few years. Me Too, Black Lives Matter. I think it's now time for DV enough. We've had enough, and we're not going to put up with it anymore.
Right. And I believe there's 2 states in the U.S. that actually has this in place already. I don't know if I'm mistaken. One of them might be California. I have to look into that. But there are other 2 states, I believe, that already has this in place. So it's something that, you know, people are interested in pursuing. I mean, it's already started. What it is just at a standstill at the moment. So, you know, I understand New York is a no-fault state. You know, I believe New Jersey as well. But, you know, this is affecting people's financial, emotional life. You know, just the thought of, you know, alimony can last anywhere between, let's say, range of 3 to 10 years. You imagine paying someone your part of your salary up to 10 years.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Yeah.
You know, it's still an abuse.
It absolutely is. Yes. Financial abuse affects almost every single victim of domestic violence. It's another forms of control. And so, yes, this definitely needs to be changed.
Yes.
All right. Wow. We're kind of at the end a little early.
All right. Thank you. Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed everyone's, just all the speakers, the conversations that I've had. I will definitely be reaching out to you. But if you would like to reach out to me, my email address is ilsyjhoo@gmail.com. Sherry could definitely connect us if we want to talk further on other, you know, discussions about domestic violence. I'm always available. But thanks for having me, Sherry.
Thank you.